It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV. The famous opening lines of the worldwide phenomenon Family Guy, while a sarcastic juxtaposition to the actual content of the program, painted a poignant image of where American culture was at the turn of the century. Technology had infiltrated our lives, only to fill them with debauchery that warps and corrupts our minds. But where are those good old-fashioned values on which we used to rely? Gamer is a movie that made me think. Gamer is a 2009 film from the twisted psychopaths Neveldine and Taylor, the director duo who brought us the infamous Crank films. Now, if you haven't seen the Crank films, I don't really respect you at all, but if you have, you'll feel right at home here. They make some of the craziest and most ADHD movies of all time, something they were quite ahead of their time with. Look, these movies even had Subway Surfers and soap cutting in the corner, like how actually the fuck did they know that? But easily the most ahead of its time film they ever made was 2009's Gamer. Gamer is a movie that made me think big ideas and complicated thoughts.
We live in society.
No, we're living in a society!
Gamer is a maximalist cyberpunk dystopian satire about a world in the near future where an eccentric tech billionaire psychopath has invented a way for human beings to be controlled by others a la video game avatars for money. Everything from the themes presented, the presentation presented, and the characters have been panned by critics for years as being this dumbass movie that's only interested in flashing blood and boobs in your face. But as longtime viewers of mine know, just because a movie is filled with gratuitous ass shots and stupid bullshit, that doesn't at all mean the movie itself can't also hold outstanding ideas and fascinating dissection. Let's start with the most important thing about this movie. John Leguizamo was in it.
And this is where we produced our children.
I challenge you to name even one bad John Leguizamo movie. Okay, so in the world of Gamer, there are two games that take advantage of the mind control technology known as the Nanics, and those two games are Society and Slayers. Society is your basic 3D world, Second Life, VR chat, Gmod, whatever type of game where you get an avatar, an actual sentient person who has given up control of themselves for money, and can essentially do whatever you want to them. Most people choose to just suck and fuck. I assume the area, I want to say server, but this is a real location somewhere on the planet, that we see is just some sort of free roam or trade.tf type of game mode, and maybe somewhere else people are playing Trouble in Terrorist Town or Mexico RP.
Hello, I have passport. What the fuck?
Society is a sadistic playground where regular Joes hop on after work and literally live vicariously through these real-life people and make them do depraved, unspeakable acts. It does beg some questions. The people who offer their bodies up to this game treat it like a day job. They get to go home, clock out, and have their free will back for a few hours a day so they can be laughed out of social services for asking to get their kids back. So does this mean that players just can't play their game during their avatar's off hours? And the other game that we see way more of is Slayers. Slayers is a game where you control real death row inmates and compete in bombastic PvP survival games. The deaths are real. Regular people controlling murderers to murder other murderers. It's like murder squared. The death row inmates are given the choice between participating in this game for a chance of a pardon after 30 survived rounds, or being executed normal style. Whatever normal style may look like in this world. The game was conceptualized as a way to bring in billions of dollars for the United States federal prison system, which had previously been on track to bankrupt the entire country because it was way too full and expensive to maintain. But now they have Slayers and have managed to turn the most fucked up thing I've ever heard of into the most popular entertainment in history. The weekly games bring in World Cup levels of excitement. Our main character is John Tillman, aka Cable, which is his unwilling epic gamer tag, and he's only 2 wins away from release and being able to return to his action movie flashback family. Tillman was essentially framed for murder, much like every movie ever made, but we'll get back to that later. The person who controls Tillman is none other than Logan Luhrman, star of the only movie to make me more uncomfortable than Cannibal Holocaust.
And in this moment, I swear we are
Gay, tardily gay. Simon is your average teenage boy who lives in the funniest bedroom I've ever seen. So this part is an aquarium full of sharks, then he's got a Mario 64 painting here that leads into this 360-degree desktop full of pop-ups, random sci-fi computer shit, websites to buy guns, and fangirls who invade his domain to
Suck, Simon. You're gonna get my boyfriend killed before he can get out of jail and before he can fill me up with his hot seat.
and also his sister, who in one sentence may be one of the funniest characters I've ever seen.
What's up, loser? Mom says, go to college, move the fuck out, and, oh yeah, you're 6 retard. You smell like Jeffrey Dahmer.
wanna make out?
You wish. Can't wait till they cut you up, Simeon.
Balls, bitch.
Simon?
And then there's these two who talk in sync, and their names are Cum Dumpsters. Everyone actually has great usernames in this movie. You got My Balls Hurt, Vagina Blender, McLovin. But at the top of all of this is the inventor, Ken Castle.
Who is Ken Castle?
Your classic salt of the earth, started from a garage tech billionaire who speaks with a southern accent to appeal to the common man.
I'm making meats now. Smoking these meats here, they taste doubly better when you hunted the animal yourself. So
Ken Castle is cartoonishly evil and incredibly entertaining to watch, as most movie villains are. He's mad with power in a purely devilish way, and he has dastardly plans to brainwash the entire world, much like all tech billionaires. But believe it or not, he doesn't quite have the whole world attached to his hands. There are people out there who disagree with the existence of the technology and take issue with the very concept of having our autonomy stripped away from us for a meager wage, while one man reaps the rewards and controls the back doors into our very minds. Those freaks who oppose this are called the humans, and they're led by ludacris?
Ludacris is in it?
The humans are something most people say is an analog for Anonymous, maybe, and they've got a plan to take down Castle, free Tillman, and save the world. But is this even a world that can be saved anymore? Gamer depicts a world where genuine Bloodsport and IRL rape simulators are more popular than Super Mario or FIFA. Depraved almost sounds too nice. Sure, there are people in the universe who disagree with it and news programs pretend to represent them, but you can't argue with these reaction shots to broadcasts of slayers. The overwhelming majority love it. This may seem totally insane and unrealistic, and I definitely hope it is, but try to remember what the internet was like in the 2000s, and in many ways still is to this day. For the first time, we as humans were more connected than we've ever been before, and we were using that technology to distribute horrific execution videos and prostitutes eating poop out of each other's butts. For every Charlie Bit My Finger and Duck song, there were psychological torture and harassment campaigns on mentally disabled people. Doxing, swattings, myriads of illegal content, stalkers, you name it. Someone was doing it to others through the computer. 9-year-olds in India could hop on Call of Duty and call 9-year-olds in Wisconsin the hard R N-word. We pretty quickly got good at utilizing this technology to make each other's lives worse and worse. Even aside from the darker aspects of the internet and really just society in general at that time, regular social media in the relatively short time it's existed has been linked to increases in depression among children and is without a shadow of a doubt making us all way stupider and destroying our attention spans to the point where most people can't even watch something longer than
10 seconds long.
Yeah, it ain't boring as fuck.
Needing to see something else in the peripheral vision to describe.
My Instagram Explore page is like 20% softcore porn, 20% cute cat videos, and 60% people dying in horrific car accidents. A building just fell on that guy. On Instagram. Humanity spent the last 8 million years waging war, murdering each other, and dying at 17 years old, fighting a saber-toothed tiger who, unbeknownst to us, would later join up with a sloth and woolly mammoth to return our baby to the tribe it just massacred. Like it or not, we have violence in our code. It's easy to suppress these days. I mean, we all have moments when we're at the store and a child in front of us just stops walking, and we have to quickly stop to not hit them with our cart full of products, and for like half a second we think about kicking them in the head 300 style with our steel-toed work boots. But then an Ed Sheeran song starts playing on the loudspeaker, and suddenly I have no rage in my body. Speaking of buying products at Target, Gamer is a movie about capitalism. Now look, I know doing a Marxist analysis of a movie on YouTube is just about the gayest thing you can do this side of a penis, but look, when most YouTubers go on a rant against capitalism, they're doing it from inside a $7 million mansion while wearing clothes that look like shit and cost them $20K. I have bed foam command stripped to my wall. We are not the same. And you won't catch me doing that shit either when I get my YouTube bag. I'm buying a compound in Wyoming and filling it with guns and dirt bikes. Like I said earlier, the people who physically participate in the aptly named society game do it for money. It's their job to be controlled by others to do things they don't really want to do. This is the case for John Tillman's wife, Angie. They're exploited, injured, abused, all for the benefit of sick and twisted individuals. Tell me that's not the exact same thing as working at Arby's. Obviously in Gamer, they're literally being controlled by others to do their bidding, but I think there's very few people in the world who do their jobs because they actually like it. Maybe they like having something to do. I mean, I like getting out of the house, or they like the money it pays. But if I didn't have to orchestrate train derailments in rural cities all day at work, I'd be doing other stuff like learning how to BMX or making drum and bass noise albums. Regardless of how you feel about capitalism, it's not a hot take in any way to say that there are more Squidwards than SpongeBobs. After all, was it not Blink-182 who said, "Work sucks"? I know. Calling the game society was genius of the writers, because this is how society works. Regular poor people being manipulated by shadowy maniacs for a tiny penance. But in Gamer, there's a device in their head forcing them to do it. What about you? Anyway, back in the actual plot of the movie, Gerard Butler pisses alcohol into a car's tank. The last thing I really feel like I need to talk about is the presentation and editing of the movie. It's a bit hyper. Anyone familiar with Crank should already know what type of movie this is, but why doesn't Gamer get the pass from most people in the same way Crank and Crank 2 High Voltage did? It's not for everyone, no doubt. And much like No Doubt, Gamer is certainly an acquired taste. In many ways, it feels more like a $1 Million Extreme or Sad World sketch drawn out to 95 minutes. There's a scene where it shows the HUD of the game from Logan Luhrman's perspective, and there's just shit everywhere. It makes no goddamn sense, and it's hilarious. Scenes have dozens of cuts per second. Ludacris will, despite being live, do jump cuts and generate a pic from nowhere. Scenes will play in reverse like a boomerang effect. Gamer is, and I don't mean this derogatorily, a complete shitpost. Everything about it is just one big shitpost. Now, obviously that doesn't mean it can't still be artistic. There's plenty of shitposts that are modern art and have plenty of merits. These are generally called satire. Classical satire like RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Catch-22, Doctor Strangelover, some other shit. Some of you mush-mouthed dipshits probably didn't even know some of these were satire, but Gamer absolutely is too. They all take real-life elements and exaggerate them for comedic effect, and if that's not what's happening here, in this scene where dozens of men are being puppeted through TV game show war zones by teenage boys as other lower offense prisoners are being forced to do radical dirt bike stunts and explode, then I don't know what satire is. Maybe I don't. The awesome thing about YouTube is that I don't have to know what I'm talking about at all. And if the big bad tech billionaire doing a show-tuned dance number and just being a complete... Oh, if it were only 2009 still, I could say this word, but I'm not allowed to say that word anymore. To already have tech billionaires pegged as Nancy boys back then was honestly clairvoyant of the filmmakers. At the end, the point is all revealed. Ken Castle used the games as a test to make sure that the tech worked and that people didn't care, and from there he would use his cyborg computer brain to directly control the entire world with his mind and influence the actions of others. Until Cable tells him to imagine him getting stabbed by him, and it worked. The ending might be hilarious. No, it is hilarious actually, but I think it also ties in very nicely with the theme of who's really in control. Castle wasn't even really in control of himself either, and that was his downfall. His own tech was used against him in the very way he was going to use it on others. Or maybe it's just really funny. Blazing Saddles was a satire too. Like I said earlier though, is this a world that can really be saved? Many people have theorized that killing Ken wouldn't dissolve the company and rid the world of this tech, and I'm completely with them. Ken's death is broadcast all over the world to thunderous applause, but remember, this is a world that loves violence, so it's kind of more likely they just love a good killing, more so than who it actually was. Also, we should question whether or not the escape of John, Angie, and their daughter was even real in the first place. There's a scene earlier with the humans that shows that memories can be broadcast from the brain to monitors. So would it not also make sense that it works the other way? That you could send a video feed into someone's mind, that you could do false realities that get beamed into people's brains? And follow me here for a second. Earlier in the film, we get a flash forward to this scene we later learn is at the end where his wife is caressing his extremely on-the-nose tattoo. But what if this isn't a flash forward? What if this really is a memory when we first see it, something that has already happened to him, much like this memory of him with his daughter? And when we see this scene happen again here at the end, that is actually his life being put on a loop. They've rewound the tape and hit play again. I mean, think about it. When Cable tells the remaining Castle engineers to shut it off, why would they do that? This is still a trillion-dollar company with or without their CEO. We never see the world reacting to society being shut down or anything. We have no reason to believe that these guys weren't simply pretending to shut it down to get away from this dangerous man. Maybe what they really did was activate a false reality save state in their heads, lock them away and go back to business as usual. It's well established in the world that without Slayers and the Nanics, the federal prison system was set to bankrupt the country. So as long as the economy or the infrastructure doesn't change, America can't afford to just shut it down, no matter how flawed or immoral the system is. Like I said, Gamer made me think big thoughts and important ideas. Is it a perfect movie? Well, yeah, but unfortunately art is subjective and some people are bound to just hate things that I love. I mean, most movies I talk about are ones that have spent decades being lampooned by the general public, so I'm used to being a contrarian at this point. I hope someday people will start to warm up to this movie as the cyberpunk themed cultural satire it clearly was in an America before social awareness and political correctness, when it kinda seemed reasonable to expect foul-mouthed psychopaths to rule the world through mind-controlled hyperviolence. I just don't get how this movie wasn't immediately seen as a satire in the same way that RoboCop, gay, tardily gay. Oh yeah. Well, maybe the director's commentary will help my case. I mean, they'll explain what they were going for. I'm destroying my credibility. Why am I even scripting this out, much less actually performing it and editing it? Why am I uploading it with this part intact either? What the fuck?